Hey, how's everyone doing out there?
Hello, hello, welcome, welcome.
My name is John Gardner. This is my wife and law partner, Radlin Mendoza, and we are Gardner and Mendoza Immigration Law. We're immigration lawyers and co-founders of our law firm. We are celebrating 25 years
Wow.
this October. Very, very proud of that.
That means we're 25 years older than when we first started the law firm.
That's right. That means that we have been practicing immigration law for 25 years.
Ooh, that's a long time to be doing anything.
Yeah.
But it has been a fun journey.
Yeah, it sure has. Well, it's great to be here. It's always great to be here. We come to you every Monday from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock. And we come to give you any updates if there are lots of things going on with immigration news. We also answer your questions. So if you post your questions in Facebook, post your questions in TikTok, we'll try to get to them. I want to say hi as well to everyone out there in the TikTok world. And there are a lot of people out there in the TikTok world.
Yeah, we have Judy. We have, I can't see who has joined us. Well, we have Judy.
Let me get my glasses. 25th year. See that?
I'm close. Gracie loves. We have Carol. Hello, hello. Thank you for joining.
That's right.
And if you all have questions, as John mentioned, go ahead and put them in the comments, and we will get to them in the order that they are received. And did you talk about the disclaimer?
Haven't yet.
Okay.
So the other thing I want to tell you is that what we do here is for informational, educational, and entertainment purposes only. It is not legal advice. Not legal advice.
It's not legal advice. And the reason is because we have a quick comment and you have a quick question. And in order for us to give you legal advice, number one, you have to be a client of ours. And number two, even if you were a client of ours and you just left a question there and maybe hired us the very next day, we still can't really give a very great answer because we don't know all of the facts. So we're answering on the very little information that we have, potential, the possibility, this could be it. So not legal advice.
That's right. When we meet with someone, we have a lot of immigration law in our heads, but we don't have a lot of your facts. But when you become a client of ours, have a consultation, we do a very deep dive, make sure that we've explored every possibility, every pitfall, the best way forward, and then we put a game plan together, a plan of action, and we execute flawlessly. That's what we do.
Yep.
Oh, here's some
execute flawlessly. Yes, I love that. I love that. So we do have some immigration updates, but we like to just give the updates throughout the hour, and we'll be answering questions. So, all right, awesome. Do you want to give a quick immigration update?
There's really not much that I saw that's been going on. We've been following
this week.
We've been following everything. A lot of the stories that we're hearing are involving travel. So we definitely want to make sure that we're careful with that. And we've been talking a lot about that. Last week, we got a ton of questions and almost every one of them was about travel. So if you guys want to have questions about travel again, that's fine. We'll take them again and give you our best answer on those. But that seems to be what's really on everybody's mind right now, is being worried about traveling. And I don't blame you. If you are not a U.S. citizen right now, we're not saying you can't travel. You probably can, but you got to be careful. And there's some things to really take into consideration before you do that. Okay.
All right.
And let me see.
Okay. While you're looking at that, I'm going to put Ahmad's question here. Hi, Ahmad. Thanks for joining us on YouTube as well as on Facebook. So Ahmad has his 10-year green card through marriage to a green card holder, and before my wife got her citizenship by 3 months. If I want to apply for citizenship, I need to wait the 5 years or the 3 years from the date that she got her citizenship. You can wait the 3 years, Ahmad. So the requirement is that you have been married for at least 3 years, that you have been living together with at least 3 years, and your spouse has been a U.S. citizen for at least 3 years. Hopefully that helps. Good luck to you. Congratulations. And thanks for joining us tonight. Thanks for the love, guys.
Yeah, the other update that Radlin was referencing, and I want to get the countries right here because they've splintered it into two oral arguments. This is a federal case, a federal arguments being heard in Massachusetts. It involves the Trump administration's ending what's in the process of ending humanitarian parole. We're dealing with countries Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela are the ones that oral arguments were heard actually today. In Massachusetts. And so what's going on there is you've got a program that's ending. There are people that obviously will be affected by this program ending who have sued. They're asking the court to issue an injunction. And, based on what I was reading from the oral arguments and based on the jurisdiction, it's in Massachusetts. I think it's highly probable that the judge will probably side with the plaintiffs in some way, shape, or form. What that looks like, hard to say. The plaintiffs obviously are asking for an injunction that would be nationwide, so it would affect them and anyone else affected. The government attorneys were saying if you do an injunction, we would at least ask that you limit it to the 20 plaintiffs. There are only 20 plaintiffs in this particular case, urging the judge to avoid a sort of immigration class action. I doubt the judge will be persuaded by that particular argument. Usually in these immigration cases, we do see injunctions that are nationwide. I think partly because even though the plaintiffs are different, it is federal law. So if it applies to one plaintiff here, then it would apply to a plaintiff in Seattle equally. And so I think they probably will win the case for now. And I think they'll probably get the injunction, and it probably will be a nationwide injunction. On Thursday, there'll be more oral arguments for different countries, but this was just Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela.
And this is what are we talking about? 500,000 people?
Yeah, I think they said that in total there was about 500,000 people that would be affected by this entirely. Let's see the.
That's quite a lot. Let me try to. I'm going to try to adjust so you're in frame over here a little bit.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I wanted to see the.
There we go.
Yes.
Perfect.
Thank you. Let's see the other countries. I was just looking at this.
Well,
I apologize.
We have Ukraine, right?
Yeah, but I specifically wanted to see the ones that were going to be heard on Thursday.
Oh, gotcha.
Oh, now I don't see it. I'm sorry, folks. Well, rather than just keep searching for that. I think Afghanistan, Ukraine. It's interesting. It's not funny. It's just interesting to us as attorneys, immigration attorneys, specifically looking at legal cases. The APA, the Administrative Procedures Act, is sort of the turning point here again that the judge was focused on. And basically what it says is that when you have a executive order or rule, this is not necessarily dealing with a full law, but an executive order from a president, that when another president wants to change that, or anyone wants to change it, except it have to be a president doing it, then they can't just do it without then putting it up for public comment again. And so it's designed to slow down implementing things and slow down unwinding things. And so if you recall, some of Biden's programs, like the Keeping Families Together and Obama's DAPA program, which was going to be an extension of DACA, failed for the reverse reason. The federal judges in those cases said that they had done it hastily, had not followed the APA, didn't allow for public comment, and so they struck them as being illegal and unconstitutional. Well, the same applies when a president is trying to undo something. They can't do it without having it open for public comment. So that's what this judge is talking about, and I was not surprised. Radlin was not surprised either.
Yep.
Okay, now that everyone is almost asleep.
Not asleep. It's very good information to know, and you're very articulate.
When we get into the weeds,
and describing the.
When I get into the weeds on case law, it sometimes can be a little.
You guys are lucky I wasn't the one that was going to be presenting that information. You'd be completely confused. Now it's very clear.
Great. If anyone has questions about that, let me know. Okay.
Okay, while John is pulling up the first question on TikTok, I just want to remind you guys to share this if you think this information might be helpful to others. Follow, like, and share. That'd be helpful to spread the information. And we are, back on the live stream, back on TikTok Live, because we took a little hiatus. So some of you may not know that, but we took about a 6-month break just for personal reasons, and also a lot was going on. And we really felt compelled to get back on the live so we could share information, answer your questions, and just make sure that you all are getting good and correct information, and that you feel like you can come here to ask your questions and get updated information. And there are a lot of creators out there, a lot of creators on TikTok. There are many attorneys. The number of immigration attorneys that have gotten on TikTok has completely exploded, which is good. And there are many really good ones. And so just keep getting information from reputable sources. And you know the ones, right? You know who the attorneys are. You can check their backgrounds. You can check their reviews. You can look at their comments. You can look at what they're saying. And while you're getting all of this information, just want to remind you, it is not a substitute for consulting with an immigration lawyer, whether it be us or someone else that you follow and that you like. And what a good way to see what an attorney is like by watching their lives or by watching the information that they put out. So keep coming to the lives, keep going to other attorneys' lives. And, again, make sure you consult with the attorney. Don't just watch and then go off and do your own thing. It's
Do not
not
do
a
that.
good idea. All right. So first,
Yeah, it's
what's the
really
first
not.
question?
So the first question here,
John was going to piggyback on that. We were going to talk for another 10 minutes about it, but
another 10 minutes about it.
we're not going to do that.
Now, instead, as much
we're
as
going to answer questions.
as wonderful as that would be, instead, we're going to jump over to Jocelyn's question here, who wants to know if a parent had a deportation order but couldn't do it due to the child's sickness, can they start the process? And I want to kind of figure out what the question is.
Yeah. Here. So, Jocelyn, again, I think that this is a perfect example of what we were just talking about. This is a really good question. It sounds like one of your parents has a deportation order, maybe a final order of removal, and maybe there was a remedy for that at some point in time. Maybe you're the person that can help them with it as their child. I don't know. I don't know what the facts are. I don't know how they enter the United States. Do they enter without inspection? What country are they from? It's, probably the first thing that an immigration attorney is going to say to you is to maybe get a Freedom of Information Act request, a FOIA, to get your parents' A file, your parents' file, everything they have. Now, that said, there has been some rumors swirling around that, getting a FOIA may not be advisable. So it's because you put your address, you put your information on there. So it is really a very challenging landscape right now for immigration attorneys and our clients, because we want to make sure that we are not putting our clients in harm's way, right? Status quo is here, and then you have, hopefully we can help the person way up here, and then harming the person is obviously not even a part of the program. So that is why you have to get reputable advice and counsel from a reputable immigration attorney. So great question, but you need to talk to an attorney to help you figure out what is the actual real answer to that question. Can the parent start the process now? We don't know. I will say, and again, do not let this replace a consultation, but I will say that if someone came to me right now and it was actually true that they had a final order of removal from, some other period in time, and maybe they have a remedy now, right? Maybe there's a possibility that there's a remedy. I don't know. But I don't believe that I would ask a court right now to, file a motion to reopen based on, it really just depends on the case. But in most cases, I would probably not do it at this point in time, because there's also not, there's not cooperation, right? They're not, ICE is not going to agree to any type of joint motion. And anyhow, talk to an attorney about that.
Yeah, that's a really good point. You have to be careful because Radlin's right. There are situations where taking action in an immigration matter can actually be worse than doing nothing. And that's why we want to make sure that that's the first thing, is to not create any harm. Sometimes you just have to leave things where they are.
And wait.
And just wait. Exactly. But we would explore that. That's why we don't like to give too much detail and answers with questions here. And that's also why it's not legal advice, because, you say there's a deportation order. Is there?
We're talking a lot about this. So I have seen other immigration attorneys' lives. The answer would be talk to an immigration lawyer.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay.
Next question
is, will changing my address from San Francisco to Fresno move my case to Concord Court automatically?
So if you're talking about doing, there are different ways to change your address, right? So for a case with USCIS, it's through an AR-11. You're talking about immigration court, I'm presuming. There is a special way to change immigration court address. And I actually am not updated on what the correct way to do that is, but I'm going to say it's not through an AR-11, because that's through USCIS. Now, I could be wrong about that, but I don't think that I am. When we don't do removal cases anymore, but when we used to do removal cases, and we do see a lot of cases that are going to court, and we're trying to close that case so we can do something else for our client. But there is just like if you need to change your address, fill this out and send it to this address. So you definitely might want to take a look at your court paperwork and call the clerk's office for good measure. Although people may not answer there, but I would not use the AR-11 unless you confirm that's the correct thing. We don't do removal cases anymore. So I'm not up to date on the best way to change the address for court.
You hoping it moves, or are you worried that it's moving?
Well, if you move, and again, I'm not sure, like, are we talking about different counties? Or are we talking about a different state, a different court? There's also, if we're talking about, well, let me back up a little bit. You may have to change a venue. You may have to actually your lawyer might have to file a motion to change venue from one court to the next, because now that I'm thinking about the question, it sounds like she's going to a completely different court, right? So that is usually requiring a motion. You can't just do that through a change of address, because they're not going to move your court unless a motion is filed with the immigration court. Sorry about that. That I do know.
Okay.
Hopefully that helps.
Yeah. I think that they're going to go from San Francisco over to Fresno and down to Fresno and want to.
Okay. Yeah. So that is going to require a motion with the immigration court.
All right.
I wish we could go back and just delete just all the things that I just said, but it's okay.
Everybody was completely following every bit of it. Okay.
Motion. File a motion to change venue.
Okay. Roger wants to know, I'm a citizen. Can I fly out of the country? Yes.
Yes, you can.
You sure can.
You can fly out of the country. Now, there's a lot of stuff on the news, the media, not just social media, but even, mainstream media, which all mainstream media is on social media, right? They have their little clips of their news. But when you come back in as a US citizen or as a permanent resident or as a visa holder, you do have to realize that everyone has different levels of privacy, protection, rights. And so as a US citizen, when you're coming back in, you really don't have to answer too many questions about a lot of anything other than that's, obviously, are you declaring anything? Do you have any meat or food? Are you carrying currency of over $10,000? I mean, those are the typical questions. Are you, when they ask about declaring anything, they're talking about things that maybe you've purchased a lot of things. If you're trying to declare more money over $10,000. So these are the typical questions. And yes, you have to answer these questions as a US citizen, as a permanent resident, as a visa holder, when you're trying to come back into the United States. But when you're trying to come back into the United States as a US citizen, there is a lot out there about, Customs and Border Protection taking your phone, right? Taking your phone, running it through a scanner. If you don't want to unlock it, right? If you refuse to unlock it, then they're going to take your phone. I'm like, okay, we'll return your phone in a couple of days. So you can refuse to, from my understanding, and again, I'm not an expert on this. This is from my research from a couple of weeks ago. You can refuse to give your phone, and to unlock it, they have to have a warrant to get your password to unlock your phone. And if you have a face code, like an automatic face recognition, then many attorneys are advising that you remove that from your phone because that does not require a court order. So even though you're a US citizen, they may try to take your phone, take your information, and cause delays if you don't do it. Are you going to just say, okay, here, take my phone and send it back to me in a couple of days, and who knows what they're going to do with it, right? There are a lot of different ways that they get the information off of your phone without necessarily requiring a password. I mean, the teenage kid next door can figure out my phone password most likely, and you have to be careful about that. Now, as a permanent resident, again, you can refuse, but you're not a US citizen, right? You are not guaranteed entry into the United States as a permanent resident. US citizens are. US citizens are guaranteed entry. You might have to wait around and they might give you a hard time, but you are guaranteed entry into the United States.
At the end of the day, they have to let you in. They may give you a hard time and harass you, but Radlin's right.
So one thing about permanent residents, guys, this is $1 million tip right here, is if Customs and Border Protection, when you're coming back into the United States and they're giving you a hard time for whatever reason. Number one, hey, we think you committed fraud in getting your green card. Number two, you have a criminal record that makes you inadmissible. You can't come into the United States. Or number three, you've stayed outside of the United States and we believe that you have abandoned your permanent residency. So those are generally the three things, right? Do not sign any document that is abandoning your green card. And again, it can get dicey, right? It can be uncomfortable. And again, I mentioned this last week. We've prior to this administration, way before this administration, this is probably about 10 years ago. And we had our first experience with this. It wasn't the only one, of course, but it was clients who, the son reached out to us. Son is a US citizen. Parents are Indian nationals, and they were citizens of Canada. So they were going back and forth because his brother lived in Canada. So mom and dad were going back and forth to Canada. And so it was a lot of travel. They would go to Canada. They're permanent residents of the United States, right? Citizens of Canada. So they would leave the United States. They leave the United States, stay in Canada for 5 months, come back to the United States for 2 weeks, leave again and stay out for 4 months, come back to the United States for a month. So they did this for several years, and these were, older parents, and they got they signed the document, the abandonment of the green card, when they were coming into the United States on one of these trips. and, put in secondary inspection, probably grilled for several hours. They signed it, and they lost their green cards that day because they readily signed an abandonment. But they could have asked to be paroled into the United States and let an immigration judge determine whether they have abandoned their green card. And that's what we're telling every single one of you to do if you are ever in this situation. Again, it doesn't have to be the abandonment issue. It could be, hey, we think you committed fraud when you got your green card, or hey, you have a criminal record that's going to prevent you from coming into, you can't come in here and you can sign this and abandon your green card. We're telling you right now, don't do that. Ask to see an immigration judge. Okay. All right.
Yeah. And had they gone to an immigration judge, obviously they would have hire a lawyer. They would have had time to prepare their case and explain what the circumstances were that were causing them to keep leaving for long periods of time, and they would have just been prepared for it. So, yeah.
Right. And not, sort of pressured, bullied, because they're sitting there for hours. Maybe they didn't have a drink. Maybe they were hungry. Maybe they were scared. Probably all three of them, right? Probably all three of those things. So just be really careful and don't let them take your green card. Thank you guys for that. Love. Appreciate it.
And going back to the question, we have seen this a lot through the years, these questions. And what I've realized after 25 years doing this is that there's a real mindset among many, even that are naturalized citizens, that somehow their citizenship isn't quite the same as U.S. born citizens. They worry about, can I travel? They worry about, are they going to take my citizenship? They worry about, if I have this problem with some criminal thing, are they going to deport me anyway? And we want to make it clear to people that a citizen is a citizen. And once you become a citizen, it's like you've been here for hundreds of years. Okay. It doesn't matter. You've got all the things that every other citizen has, including the right to come back into your country, the right to not answer any questions from law enforcement, not let people in your home. I mean, a lot of people have that right as well, but you're a full citizen. Don't let anyone make you think somehow that your naturalization citizenship is not the same. It is. All right.
Yes, absolutely. That's a really good point, because we do have our naturalized clients who they ask the question, can I travel outside with my US passport? Now, this may seem like a duh moment, right, to all of us who are sitting here. But when you're hearing the stories about, the news, and you're seeing on social media and all these terrible things that are happening to people, you do question whether you're allowed to come back in. Okay, these are permanent residents, these are visa holders. Maybe some citizens get caught in the dragnet because they didn't know they were citizens. But yes, you are a full-fledged U.S. citizen, and as John mentioned, you can freely come in and out of the United States and stay outside of the United States for as long as you want as a U.S. citizen. It doesn't matter.
You could stay out for 15 years if you want.
Okay, let's grab a question.
And you're right. It's not a dumb question at all, because we get it over and over again. So obviously it's a common concern. Okay.
Very common concern. Yes.
Switching gears from travel. I knew we would talk about travel tonight because that's the thing, but we're going to switch gears for a minute because Carice wants to know, my nephew got a work permit, but his wife is now causing problems and he wants a divorce. And what would you advise? I'm guessing there that the concern is that if there's a divorce, then there's not going to be further cooperation with the immigration process. And then,
Yeah. So what is the person's name?
Carice asking for nephew.
Carice asking for nephew. So the situation is, we're going to make some assumptions here, is that nephew is going through the immigration process to get his green card based on marriage to his U.S. citizen spouse. And when you file a marriage-based green card case, then one of the benefits while you're waiting for that is you're going to get a work permit, right? So you can work while the process is pending. Now we've got trouble. Like we've got some trouble in the marriage. And what do we advise? Like, how bad is the trouble? Is he getting physically and mentally abused? Could there be a VAWA claim here? I will say that if there's no petitioner, then there is no case. The U.S. citizen spouse is the petitioner here. So if the spouse, if they break up and they divorce before the case is over, then there is a possibility that that the spouse is going to withdraw their I-130 petition, right? And without that petition, there is no case. So, and this is why I ask how bad is the situation, right? I never recommend that a person stay in an abusive marriage, an abusive relationship. There are remedies for that in the immigration law. There's the Violence Against Women's Act. It's called VAWA, and it applies to men as well. We have had many male
can be
clients.
the victims of the violence.
Yes. And so, it just depends what's happening. I can't answer that question. If there is a separation, if they separate and they're trying to work things out and they plan on working things out, the case can still be salvaged even if they're separated. It's a lot more difficult to do that. And but it just really depends on the circumstances. And like I said, I don't want to say, hey, he needs to stick it out. I'm not saying that. It really depends on the rest of the facts. But
yeah, and nobody wants to be in a relationship where there's like a power imbalance because of this sort of threat all the time about immigration. So that really is a question. How bad is it?
Yeah.
If it's, not that bad, I don't know.
Right. I mean, it depends on, and again, if we have couples that come to us and they say, hey, this is happening, we do recommend that they go through marriage counseling or they speak with their pastor to try to work things out. So those are a couple of recommendations, the regular types of things to try to work on a marriage and relationship. All right.
Okay, sorry, gang. I got to go back down because the San Francisco to Fresno question was posted many times.
Motion to change venue, San Francisco to Fresno.
Question. Yeah, folks, please don't. If you put a question in TikTok, just put it there once. We're taking them in order. So when you put it in that many times, all that happens is then we have dead time right now where I'm having to go all the way back through them all.
John's always giving lectures about people posting too many questions on TikTok. Nobody. Yeah, most people are not going to post a bunch of times. Should we just grab one in the middle?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not.
Let's grab one in the middle. Just not fair to the very top. Did we get to the top yet?
No. I'm still working through them.
Okay,
there it is again.
Thanks for the So we have to recognize the people that are giving gifts. Thank you.
Yeah.
Who is that? Is that I can't see from back here.
I can't either because of all the Fresno questions. Okay.
Fresno is not happy with the answer. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Kamikaze wants to know, should DACA travel domestically or stay still?
DACA, you have DACA. I think it's okay to travel domestically.
Domestically?
I think it's okay to travel domestically for right now. I mean, TSA, right? Does TSA have the time to go through immigration questions? They're not doing that for right now. So I like to say for right now, right? Because you never know what's going to change. Right. But I think that if you have DACA and you have all of your documents are in order, traveling domestically should not be a problem. Now, we did read about a father who has DACA. I believe he has a 3 children.
Mhm.
Where was he going?
Cautionary tale. He went to Mexico to
He
his
went-
grandfather's funeral.
Yeah, so he had advanced parole. You know, he had permission to come back using his advanced parole, and he was not allowed to come back. And the reason was because he had an in absentia removal order from, I'm not sure when the date was, but it was
June 2024.
It was recorded June 2024. Or it was from June 2024.
June 2024.
Okay. So in absentia means that you were ordered removed in your absence. So at some point in time in June, he had a court hearing, and allegedly he did not go to that court hearing. So this is a very black mark on his immigration record, right? You missed immigration court, not good.
He said he didn't even know about it.
This happens, right?
It does happen.
Our clients they come to us and like, I never got the notice. As a liaison with our local immigration office, we have requests that say, hey, you know, my client's case was denied because they didn't receive a notice. And so we're constantly trying to work with the immigration office to fix these types of problems and these issues. But guys, be careful with traveling. I mean, I mean, I'm sure he, you know, if he were to do it all over again, you know, it was his grandfather's funeral, but you know, he has 3 kids here in the United States. He may be the main income source for his family. I don't know, but this is a horrible, awful, terrible situation for this
they live
person.
in Kansas City.
Yeah. So DACA domestic, fine. If you are DACA and you have advanced parole,
I mean,
really think about whether do you really need to go on that trip.
Yeah, I mean, where are you going? I mean, are you going from Ohio to Indiana? Because the car gets you there pretty easily.
I think domestic is fine. I think
I do
domestic
too.
is fine.
I'm just saying that, you know, how far are you going?
And again, I mentioned that I hopped on one of our immigration colleagues' lives. Actually, it was last week after this, and just super smart attorney. And one of the questions was, I'm on DACA. Can I travel? I have advanced parole. Answer: yes, DACA travel, no problem. But it could be a problem. I'm not saying that you can't do it or you shouldn't do it. You need to really think about this. This person who, you know, got detained is not being allowed back into the United States to be with his family, his 3 children on DACA. He has a in absentia removal order that he does. It's in absentia, so like it makes sense that he may not have known about it. So anyhow, just really be cautious about that.
That's our travel caution is, I mean, to be super careful with if you're going to travel, you know, if you're on the fence about whether you want to go somewhere and travel, then just maybe don't go. This is domestic. Radlin's right. I mean, this is a whole different, I was, you know, kind of joking about the driving versus flying. If you're just flying inside the United States, you're very likely fine. But once you leave the country and you're coming back in, that's a whole different ballgame. And there are a lot of things that can make you inadmissible that Radlin talked about already. And one of them involves having a criminal conviction, and you may not even think about it. You might not even think it's a big deal. You might have even kind of forgotten that it even happened, or you've kind of forgot, you know, that something happened, but you don't even remember, or I don't know, I paid like some court costs or something, and the whole thing was dismissed, and it was the end of it. Be super careful. That stuff will absolutely bite you. If you had like some marijuana conviction or some domestic issue, and you think that the whole thing was, you know, wrapped up and dismissed because the court gave you some, you know, probation or had you do a counseling class, and then that was it and it was dismissed, you still have that in your record, and you need to be very, very careful.
Yep.
You should not be traveling if you have a criminal conviction in your background until you have sorted out with somebody whether it's a problem or not. You should call a professional, call an immigration lawyer, have a consultation about it, and find out.
Yep.
All right, we've got a question here on Facebook.
Okay. Teresa says, good evening. My mom is thinking of voluntarily surrendering her green card upon entry to the United States. She is a green card holder, but has not returned to the United States since lockdown in 2020. Will she be allowed to temporarily enter the United States upon surrendering her visa? Thank you, and all the best to you both. Best to you as well. I wouldn't do it this way. I would not do it this way. I would surrender it at U.S. Embassy if that's what she wants to do.
Yeah, we understand what her thinking is.
Yeah, no, and then get a tourist visa, and then come in with a tourist visa. Like, no, I wouldn't surrender it because they're not. They used to do that. They used to, oh, okay, you can surrender and you can come in on the tour, but only if she had a tourist visa in her passport that wasn't canceled. So I would surrender it at, well, look, I'm giving legal advice right now.
Don't give legal.
I'm
This is not legal advice.
Another way to do it is to do it at the U.S. Embassy. I don't like her coming in and then surrendering and then saying, okay, let me in. But no, don't. This is legal advice, actually. It's not legal advice, but it's a recommendation. I would not do it that way.
It's not legal
right
advice.
Now.
It's just good advice.
It's just good advice. I would not do that right now. I wouldn't. No, I don't like it.
I don't like it.
And if she's really not going to be, she doesn't want to be a permanent resident anymore. Great, perfect. There could be a way to salvage that permanent residency if she doesn't want to. Give us a call. Our attorney Dominique Sampson, he's one of our attorneys that works on returning resident cases, and you can book an appointment with him. You can talk to him. We charge $295 for a consultation, and but if mom is just ready to give it up and she just wants to be a tourist in the United States, then she can think about doing that at the U.S. Embassy.
Yeah, you should call. This is right in Dominique's wheelhouse. 100%. Yep.
All right. Thank you for the question. It's a really good one.
Okay.
Hopefully that helps.
Yeah, Nave over here on TikTok said good evening earlier. Good evening. And she said that she sponsored for her 2 boys 4 years ago as a green card holder, but she hasn't heard any answer yet.
Yes. So how long? So this person, Nav, is that the person's name?
Yep.
Nav has filed I-130 petition for her 2 children, her 2 boys. We don't know how old her boys are. She is a permanent resident of the United States. And those cases can take a really long time if they are over the age of 21. So 4 years, they probably are over the age of 21. Well, I don't know if they're over the age of 21. Maybe they're 4 years old and it's taken 4 years. But if you filed an I-130 petition and you're still waiting and she says no word, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that means there has not even been an approval of the I-130 petitions. The I-130 petition for somebody who's in the F2A or F2B category, which are the children of permanent residents, can take several years for it to approve, for that I-130 to approve. So it doesn't necessarily mean there's something wrong with your case. You have to take a look at USCIS processing times. And really quickly here, the way you look up USCIS processing times, just Google USCIS processing times. It should just pop up. And then there are going to be some drop downs. And you put the form name in, the I-130, and then you put where the case is, which service center it's in. And then, it will, for the I-130, will ask, whether it's a child over the age of 21 or under 21. You click that button, and then it will show you how long that particular service center is taking to process an I-130 petition. So if they are over the age of 21, it's definitely, well, over or under, it's several years. So hopefully that helps. And if you have any questions about how to look up processing times, I have several videos on TikTok about how to look up processing times, including screen shares. So, all right. Next question.
Does a green card holder have to report a new address even if they move just within the same city?
Yes.
Any address change?
Any address change, guys. Don't mess with that.
Don't mess with
Change
that.
your address.
Yeah, if nothing else. I mean, you have to, and also you don't want anything to go to your old address. You could end up like the poor fellow from Kansas City.
Right. And for those who are permanent residents and you are eligible to apply for a U.S. citizenship and you're not, if you're saying you're not because you're waiting for Trump to get out of office, that's a bad move. Okay, so that's just I'm gonna just 1 minute on the citizenship thing. You guys, the reasons for you're not applying for U.S. citizenship are not good ones. Okay, and go ahead and put I'm not doing it because Trump is president as not a good reason to not apply for US citizenship. You should apply now so you can get your US citizenship so you can rest in, and not be worried. I was gonna say rest in peace.
I heard it. I heard it.
So you can not be worried for the next 4 years. Do you really want to be concerned for the next 4 years that something's going to happen to your permanent residency? I don't think so. It's only been 3-4 months. And I have a lot of acid reflux because of this administration.
Plus citizenship.
You're a permanent resident.
Yeah, and citizenship fixes all of it. And if you're worried that, oh yeah, but something's, and this is the other thing, a lot of people don't want to apply for citizenship because they're afraid, oh, I got this far, I shouldn't push it because what if something comes up and then I got a problem and then I'll wish that I had never done it to begin with. That's what we're here for. I mean, that's what we were talking about at the outset, is that do no harm. If you're talking to us and we discover something that's going to blow up in your face if you apply for citizenship, we're going to tell you, don't do it.
Yep.
We'll find it and we will recommend you not do it. But if we green light your immigration citizenship case, then you can know you're going to be swearing in at the oath ceremony. It's going to happen. And then you do whatever you want.
Yeah.
You fly anywhere you want. You smoke marijuana if you want. You do anything.
Don't smoke marijuana if you are a permanent resident. That's another thing.
If you become a citizen.
Next week, we're going to do all the things that you should not do as a permanent resident and why you should 1000%, if you are eligible, apply for U.S. citizenship now more than ever. Number one, there's a real possibility that the N400 examination, the test, right, the history and stuff, is just getting harder. It's going to get tougher. So that could be the first reason. I don't think the filing fees are not going to go up again. They just changed them. They didn't actually they went down. So if you're eligible, please apply for U.S. citizenship. We can help you. We have a lot of people who are, what's a better word? What's a better phrase than coming out of the woodwork to apply for U.S. citizenship, right? Because you guys have been too busy to address applying for U.S. citizenship. I have been too busy to renew my U.S. passport, but here it is right now. I need to take the passport photo. But how long has it been sitting there? It's been sitting there for a week.
3 days.
3 days? Okay, that's not that long. That's not terrible, but I need the passport renewal. Like, I'm going on a trip and I need the renewal. So I've got to do it, right? And you guys have got to do it. You're sitting on your excuses. The excuse is probably you don't have time. The other excuse is you probably don't have money. The other excuse is you have,
a lot of fear,
theft charge from, 1999, and I don't want to apply for citizenship because I'm afraid of that. Or I got a reckless driving ticket 7 years ago and I'm too afraid to face that. We know what your fears are. Trust me, we've seen them. I spent 30 minutes with an old client of mine telling her that it was okay to apply for U.S. citizenship, even though she had 2 traffic tickets. So John heard that conversation and I was so patient. And I love this client. I love this old client.
Before I forget, I mentioned marijuana. I'm not advocating smoking marijuana, but my point was you can do what you want once you're a citizen. But now that it's out there, the marijuana comment, Radlin is right. If you are not a U.S. citizen, do not smoke, grow, don't get involved with marijuana right now, okay? Because there's a misconception.
Forever.
There's a misconception that because marijuana is legal in some states, that it's okay. It's not legal under federal law. It is not okay for immigration, all right? So if you have a green card or you're here on some kind of a visa, steer clear, my friends.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. So what was even the question? Did we answer the question?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah, we
Fantastic.
did. Absolutely.
Oh, someone's watching from Virginia Beach. Yay.
Annabelle says, watching here in Virginia Beach. Thank you all, Gardner and Mendoza.
Awesome. Virginia Beach is where our office is. We are located in Virginia Beach, Virginia. That is where our brick and mortar office is. But we represent people from all over the United States. It's been so much fun to represent people from all over the United States. And of course, we've always represented people from all over the world.
Yeah.
But to see more and more people coming from, California, Colorado, Wyoming, Alaska, Hawaii, it's great, to name a few.
And if you're ever on the East Coast of the United States, come see us. Even if you're not a client, just pop in, bring food. Okay. Jay wants to know, can you apply for a green card while you're on probation? On probation.
Yeah, it depends on what you're on probation for.
What probation?
Yeah. I mean, the answer is yes, but it depends. So, if you don't want to tell us what it is,
and by the way,
then you can consult with us.
Yeah, and while we're on the probation and citizenship coming together, that's another point that I try to make at least once every week when we do this, is that if you do have a criminal case that's pending, not if it's already over, then whatever happened. There's not much you can do about that. Sometimes you can change it, but it's hard. But if you have a case that's pending and you are thinking about becoming a citizen, the conviction itself may not be something that will prevent you from getting your citizenship, but being on probation will be a delay until that probation period ends. So be very careful, because what a lot of judges like to do is give people jail time and suspend all of it on condition of like 3 years of good behavior. All you have to do is be of good behavior for the next 3 years and pay your court costs, and then you're done. That's great if you're not applying for citizenship. It's not great if you are applying for citizenship, because the problem is during those 3 years, that good behavior period is like a probation. It's treated as a probation. And so you won't be able to have your case move forward.
Correct. And, so many people who are trying to become a U.S. citizen, they're doing it for a reason that is maybe because they want to bring their parents to the United States, right? You have to be a U.S. citizen for your parents to immigrate to the United States with your petition, through your petition. Maybe their spouse has been waiting for them to become a U.S. citizen. Maybe their spouse is sitting at home with them who has now overstayed their visa, waiting for them to naturalize and become a U.S. citizen. So that's such a good point, because many people don't know that you can't naturalize if you are on probation. And one of the strategies that we have used is John used to ask for that probation period to get knocked out or totally get cut out. Okay, my client will pay 3 times the fine or, spend an extra weekend in jail or whatever the case might be in order to get rid of that 3 years of good behavior. So yeah, great point. But back to the person who is on probation, it really just depends on what you're on probation for. So, if somebody is on probation, well, people who are on probation, is it normally more serious things?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily, right. It could just be one of those, you got to be on good behavior for a year.
Well, that's the thing. I don't know. You're using, when you say probation, I don't know if you mean like a good behavior period or actual probation. Yes, right. You are right. If it's actual probation, then it likely is something more serious.
Right. So it just really depends on what you're on probation for. The real question is, if I have this conviction of whatever I'm on probation for, am I able to file and get permanent residency? Right. So that's the real question of
Mhm.
is this particular conviction going to be an issue for me to get my green card? The probation period is going to go away, right? It's documented. There are some convictions where it's not a problem for immigration, even though they might be on a good behavior period or, probation. So it all just depends. We came on a few minutes late,
Yeah,
so
we
we,
can
we
take-
give we give 3 extra minutes.
Yeah, we'll give a couple extra. So stay tuned. Wants to know, how do I apply for my dad, who's been here already and overstayed his visa since 1999? So we got an overstay since 1999.
Okay, so he's overstayed his visa, and what is this person's name?
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Awesome. Stay tuned. I love that. So stay tuned. If you are a U.S. citizen, and let's just assume you are a U.S. citizen, and your dad entered the United States with a visa, then you're actually eligible to file a petition for him, and he is potentially eligible to do adjustment of status, which gives me great joy to tell you this information, because if he's been here for that long, it depends on, and he has proof that he came into the United States. And if he doesn't have proof, then we would figure out how to get it. There's a way to get the document that they give you when you enter the United States. So great news is, if you're a U.S. citizen, you're over the age of 21, he is your father, he's on your birth certificate, and he entered the United States with inspection, meaning he came in through a port of entry, showed his passport, his visa, and they said, yes, come on in, then he is likely eligible for adjustment of status, and we can absolutely help with that. So give us a call. My contact information for our law firm is in my profile, and you can also give us a call at 757-464-9224. We'll be happy to help you with that case. It is right up our alley. We do many of those per year.
Okay, Begets 84. I was kind of trying to parse this question, figure out. It says, maybe you can have better luck with it. How about filing of self-petition due to VAWA? Used to be K1 visa.
Ooh, did you get married? This is a good question.
See, she knows. I'm trying to figure out what the question is.
This is a good question. This is a good question.
Right out of the gate.
So the VAWA petition is yeah.
I got it. I know what happened
here.
The
VAWA petition itself is it's the petition, right? Again, with the VAWA, you have to file that with a green card application. Now, the question is, if you came in on a K1 visa, and did you marry the person that petitioned for you? If you didn't, then you're not eligible for adjustment of status. Now, I do not know whether there's an exception for VAWA petitions. I don't know. I don't know if there's an exception for VAWA petitions. It's something I can figure out very quickly, but no, I don't know the answer off the top of my head. But the reason it's such a great question is because I think that you probably did not marry the person that petitioned for you, and then you're not eligible to adjust your status, even if you get married to someone else. That's pretty harsh, but that is the reality. All right.
All right, we got time for one more?
Time for one more. We're having so much fun.
Okay. Nato CD must have been listening to us in the past. Says, I was listening to your petty offense exception.
Oh, yes.
So definitely listening.
Nice.
But I was confused. I'm about to apply for citizenship.
Okay. So the petty offense exception, basically what that is, do you want to talk about the petty offense exception?
Yeah. The petty offense exception basically is an exception if the conviction was something that carried a maximum no more than 12 months of jail, and your sentence was 6 months or less, then it falls into something called the petty offense exception.
Correct. And so with the petty offense exception, and the other thing is you can only have one you can only have one conviction, right? that could fall under the petty offense exception. So if you had 2 theft convictions, for example, you couldn't get the petty offense exception because you have 2 of them, right? So in the context of applying for US citizenship, if you say have a theft conviction and it falls just 1 theft conviction, 1 crime of moral turpitude, and it falls under the petty offense exception, and it's within the 5 years of good moral character, right? Then you can still apply for US citizenship. And I would say, officer, this falls under the petty offense exception, even though it's within the 5 years or the 3 years of good moral character period. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah.
Did I explain that?
You did perfectly. And I said we were done, but then we got Eric here real quick. He's watching from Seattle right now, so I kind of feel like we should.
Okay. All right.
Let's end with
You're
Eric.
just saying that because Eric is on Facebook. So we just
and he's in Seattle. I mean, look at Eric's out in Seattle.
I know. Look how happy Eric is.
Yeah.
Eric is watching from Seattle. My wife just got her conditional green card. Congratulations through the K-1 visa. Look at how happy they are.
Sleepless in Seattle.
Are we now allowed to travel out of state and out of the country right away? So she just got her green card. Yes, you are. Yep. Answer yes. And keeping in mind all the things that we have said for the past 3 weeks.
For the past 3 weeks. Yeah, be careful.
Since January.
I mean, why are you leaving the country?
You're allowed to. Listen,
look, there's so many
Eric,
great things. You can go hiking in Oregon. You can head down.
I know, but he did say domestically.
I know, but
he's just out of state
country.
and out of the country right away.
I'm recommending a full-out U.S. tour.
Eric, listen, if you have been listening to us this whole time, then you know the warnings that we have given to permanent residents who are traveling outside of the United States. Your wife just got her green card, right? So we're talking about, is there any fraud, right? Is there any fraud with getting the K-1 or the green card that could crop up in the application? Has your wife committed any types of crimes that would make her inadmissible to the United States, even though she already has her permanent resident card? Maybe something was missed.
Okay.
And then the third
he's telling us where he's going to go. Canada and the Philippines.
It's going to be fine because she just got it, so she hasn't even traveled outside the United States yet, so the whole abandonment issue is not going to be a problem. So Eric, you should be fine. It doesn't matter where you're going, by the way. So Eric says, oh, it's just for a quick vacation to Canada and may visit the family in the Philippines. It doesn't matter if it's quick. It doesn't matter if it's close. It doesn't matter if you're going to Canada or Mexico, the closest places you can go. It matters about whether you fall under these 3 things.
Yeah. I still, you guys live in a big city, Seattle, so you probably want to get out and get some fresh air. Yosemite is beautiful. I recommend Yosemite.
All right.
Okay. We are out of time now, though.
We are out of time. We need to go eat the dinner.
Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Yes, we'll see you guys next week.
If you have questions that we didn't get to, join us next Monday at 8:00. Get here early and get them posted, and we will get to them. Okay?
And guys, please follow, and share, because if this is helping you, it may help other people as well. So really, really appreciate your support and your wonderful questions.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for spending time with us tonight. 2 thumbs up.
Big 2 thumbs up. Bye, guys.
See ya. Have a good night.